tell you for months. Like I took it in July, and you don't find out whether or not you pass. I didn't find out until November. Yeah. It takes a long time to read. So for that whole time, it was on edge. The whole time. Yeah.
Like, because I know some people like plan a vacation right now.
Oh, right after the bar, after I took the bar, I went on a like a cross-country trip.
Nice.
Just wondering, like, what were your confidence levels going into the test and then after it?
What you mean, like how good did I? What do you mean?
Yeah, like how confident did you feel going into it, and then how confident did you feel leaving it?
Seriously, when I was a fat nerd in law school. I was the person that if nobody would answer the questions or if everybody got it wrong, the professor would ask me because I knew the answer. So, that's how it was. And so when it going into the bar exam, I had that same mentality where it's like I have to know everything on this test. So I was pretty confident going into the test, and I was like 80% sure that I would pass without. Just because I knew all the rules. Like, if they threw something at me, I just, like, when all else fails on a law school exam, just go back to the basics, go back to the rule, and then you can just make anything else up. Like, as long as you know, really, like, as long as you know the rule, you can make up the analysis. Like, he hit this person on the head, well, that means it could be battery, or, like, you know, just the elements of the law of, like, yeah, I was pretty confident. And coming out of it, I was pretty confident. Except for the multiple choice, which I thought I failed. But I guess other people failed it too, so it's curved. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask, if it's based on how other people do it.
The multiple choices, the other parts are not. The essays are graded twice. That's why it takes so long, because there's 6 essays, 2 performance tests, and each one is graded twice. And when there's scores that are too far apart, then there's a 3rd grading of that person's test, right? So it takes a long time for them to figure out what everybody's score is.
I was going to ask, what did you do in between days, like between day 1 and 2?
Oh, so it's like 8 a.m. to 12, and then there's lunch for an hour, and then 1 to whatever time, like 4 or 5. And then at night I took mine in Sacramento, right down there by, you know where like K Street is, J Street, by the convention center. I would go get something to eat around there. I stayed in my own world because I didn't want to talk to other people about what they thought about the text, because I didn't want them to freak me out. So I stayed away from everybody that I knew. I was like, no, I don't want to hear what they think about the test. I don't want to hear if I missed anything. Like, so I tried to be a loner. I went to go eat by myself, or I ate in my room, and then I would just go walk around, because it was really nice that time of year in July. I would just walk around downtown Sacramento and relax. And that's basically it. That's all you really have time for. You barely study during those 3 days. If you don't know your stuff by then you don't know it. All I would do is, I had these really short, like, in law school you have these outlines, they're long, like maybe 20 pages, and by the time of the bar you have to have it condensed down to like 2 pages per subject, 1 page per subject. So that is just really quick, you can go through each part of the law, right? And so that's all you really look at during those days. You don't look at your big long outlines, because that's just too much, too complicated. So just sleep is the main thing. I made sure I slept.
Kelsey, what was the hardest part, since it's your more recent, what was the hardest part of your LSATs for you?
Oh God, the logic exams, or the logic games, the logic. So I think it's like,
They don't make any sense.
I'm struggling to remember what the hell was on that. Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of these logic games that they put on the LSAT, but it's literally like, you get a scenario, and there's like 7 questions per scenario, and it's something like, A and B, okay, there's 6 movies. A and B want to see a horror movie. C and D want to see a comedy. You know, E and G want to see a romantic film. You know, the first 3 movies are horrors. The second 3 movies are, you know, romantic comedies. A doesn't want to sit with F. and G doesn't want to sit with C, so figure out who the hell can go to what movie and in what combination. And that's like what the 7 questions following are. And for those, it's like, you just have to like be, and that's where the classes came in, because the guy teaching my LSAT class was like, okay, there's 7 types of logic games. This kind, this kind, this kind, this kind, and this kind. And this is how you break down all 7. And so we just did a billion, and by the time the LSAT came around, I was like, it's a sequencing game. I have to figure out who goes in what order. And then like, I would just throw down all the tricks he taught me, and that helped me figure out all those logic games. But they're, and I mean, their thing is like, they're called games, have fun. But they're not. I didn't think they were fun. I mean, by the time the LSAT rolled around, because I had done so many, I kind of was in that mood of like, okay, I can do this, you know, like, you know, feeling a little competitive, you know, but it was never like, woohoo, logic games. So that was the hardest part for me. But I think it changes, you know, for everybody. So there's also like reading comprehension, where you read like a, you know, 6-paragraph thing, and then they ask you like questions about it. But for me, it was definitely the logic games. So yeah.
Just pick up like a practice book and you'll see.
Did you guys take a year off after undergrad, or did you go straight into it?
I took time off, but I was doing stuff during that time. I interned in Washington, D.C., and then I interned in Sacramento, and then after that I just started applying for school.
Yeah, I took time off, and I worked for an attorney here in Davis. So
It's a good idea, especially like really in today's economy and the job market. You really want to see if law school is what you really want to do, because it's a big commitment. 3 years is or 4 years if you do like part-time or anything like that. You really got to think about your decision nowadays to go to grad school and incur that extra debt, you know, and take that extra time because of the way the economy is and the way the job market is. So it's good to take a little time off and see if there's anything else that you are interested in doing, or if you could just get a job right away without having to go to law. I have friends who got really good jobs and they didn't have to go to grad school. Like they just started working in Sacramento in the legislature, and they're still working there and doing good. So.
Okay, so we only have time for one more question, and we want to ask if you could give us one piece of advice about anything at all, life, school, just any piece of advice you want to give us, what would you say?
I guess more of what I was saying before, like you guys are getting out of college in a kind of difficult time. The economy is not so good, the job market is really bad, and so if you plan to go to graduate school, you really got to think about what you're going to do, or what kind of graduate school you're going to go to, and whether or not it'll open up career opportunities for you. Just because some people don't even know about all the options out there when they're in undergrad. Like I didn't even know about some master's programs back when I was in undergrad that I probably would have applied to and tried to go do if I had known, like master's in public policy or master's in public administration, which is another area of related to law, which is pretty interesting, you know. So make sure you know all your options heading out of undergrad. Explore the different careers that you could be in. Don't just stick to, you know, the people are always like doctor, lawyer, teacher. There are other things besides those. Not that I regret becoming an attorney, but there are other careers that are related to those careers on the side, you know, that you can also get into. Like in law, you can be a paralegal or a legal assistant. And sometimes they almost make the same amount of money as an attorney, especially nowadays when people don't want to hire attorneys because there's too many of us. Or, you know, when it comes to being a teacher, there's also, you can be a counselor, you can get a master's of social work, things like that. When it comes to med, if you want to be a doctor, there's other avenues to go in that direction too. Pharmacy, research. I have a lot of people that work, that I know that work in the research arena instead of going to the actual doctor, and they still are doing really well. So that's my advice, is to make sure you know your different options, before deciding on one thing?
I guess mine is geared more towards like your time in undergrad, and it's exactly what I said earlier. It's like you only get your chance to be this age in undergrad once, you know. But at the end of the day, just remember why you're here. So like you're here to get your degree and you're here to do well. And if you decide to go to grad school in the future, you will have that well-rounded, you know, resume and you know, record to give to whichever grad school you're applying to. But yeah, definitely, you know, take advantage of your time here, but balance. It's all about balance. I feel like I know a lot of people who overdid it in one area or another and walked away feeling like, I really wish I could have done that over. Don't walk away from your undergrad feeling like, I really wish I could have done that over.
That includes partying too. Don't be one of those students who are after undergrad are like, man, I wish I would have went to more parties.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I feel like I know a lot of people who were like,
I studied
so
too
boring.
much. I was always in the library. Sucks for you. I was at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, cover Sunday.
Have at least one story where you're like, oh my god, remember that one time I did that? I feel like I have at least one of those where you're like,
what happened last night? How did I end up in this bed?
I remember like one time my best friend got really inebriated and she had she just cut her hair, and so like I was like putting her hair in little pigtails to get it out of her face when she was like in the toilet, and the next morning she came out of her bedroom and she was like, who did my hair? I was like, I did it out of necessity. It's not
All right, so let's give our panelists a round of applause.